My brother, my sister, why can't we live in peace? Our journeys are different, but one day soon they'll meet. No time to be passive, we must take back our streets. It's light versus darkness, there's no time to retreat. We want peace for our city. We want peace throughout the land. We want peace for every woman. We want peace for every man. Let's take a stand. Let's take a stand. Let's take a stand. Let's take a stand. Young man or young lady, what do you want to be? Stop killing each other with this negativity. My caution is simply what you sow, you will reap. If change don't come quickly, I hope future is bleak. We want peace for our city. We want peace throughout the land. We want peace for every woman. We want peace for every man. Let's take a stand. Let's take a stand. Let's take a stand. Let's take a stand. When you take a life, yeah, you still a dream. You limit hope and all to destiny. The lake of heartache and grief is full of mother seas. There's a storm in heaven full of unfinished dreams. Let's take a stand. Oh, let's take a stand. Let's take a stand. We need to take a stand. We want peace for our city. We want peace throughout the land. We want peace for every woman. We want peace for every man. We want peace. 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 Let's take a stand.
Good evening, Shy Friends and Shy Land. It's Frankie Parker and
I wrote a song
And
about it.
Nycee Butler. We're having a few technical difficulties. See what's going on.
Hey, Shy Friends in Chicagoland. It's Frankie Parker and
And this is Nycee. We're trying to get Frankie's mic together, so just bear with us for just one moment.
okay. Testing 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. I didn't cut it off. I didn't cut it off.
Okay, there it is. All right.
All right.
Three's the charm. Welcome to the Frankie and Nycee radio show on IntellectualRadio.com. iHeartRadio.
iHeartRadio.
iHeartRadio. What's up, Niece BC?
What's going on, Frank K?
I missed you.
Yes,
Even though we just saw each other.
We did. We see each other all the time.
Too much.
We just, it's like,
We're just
like I see you
inseparable.
and we have so much fun, and then the next thing is like, oh, when is the next time we're going to see each other
Me
again?
and you must never part.
But thank goodness for Tuesdays.
Yes, thank God for Tuesday. TGIT. That's a little too close than other words, minus the G. TGIT. Yeah, I didn't catch that. Okay. Welcome to the Frankie and Nycee radio show on IntellectualRadio.com. I need to make sure I reiterate that this is IntellectualRadio.com. And we are definitely live on Facebook. So if you, ladies and gentlemen, are out there in Facebook land and you want to chit chat with us, make your comments visible on my page, ask your questions, and we'll get it to our panel. And speaking of panel, we have an interesting panel tonight.
We do.
Is this the first time we've had non-performers, a whole panel of non-performers? I think this might be.
Well, no, we've had a time where we've had entrepreneurs.
Okay.
Well, one of the entrepreneurs is a performer.
Yeah, so I think this is the first time.
But he was wearing his entrepreneurial hat.
Okay, so we made him change personalities.
Shout out to Eddie Victorian.
Hey, Eddie Victorian. Photographer and singer extraordinaire. Y'all don't know he can sing. Y'all didn't know that. So anyway, this is the first time we've had non-performers on the show, but they do perform every day in front of bad little kids all the time. I'm just joking, just joking. And they have to perform in order to educate. So we have 3 wonderful educators on our panel today. Chicago, show your love for educators. Put your hands together.
Gonna clap for education.
That's right. Come on now. Come on, get them books. So you can speak proper English like us.
Like we try to.
So on our panel today, we have Miss Shantae Brown, we have Amina Maxwell, and we have Miss Betty Scant. Thank you guys for joining us on the panel today.
Thank you so much.
Don't ball up now, y'all. Come on now. I see the nerves coming. Thank you for having us. That's how you go to the microphone and you do that.
I think you should just introduce them again, so people who are actually watching, y'all can give a good wave or something.
Yes, let me get the wave. Let me get the wave action. Okay. So, Shantae Brown, you're a teacher?
Here.
What grade? 6th through 8th. Okay. Amina, you're a teacher as well. What grade? 6th through 8th. Okay. All right. And Bettise, what grade do you teach?
I teach all grade levels, high school.
Okay, high school. So we have 6th through 8th grade in high school. And Amina, you've done elementary teaching as well, right? For like the little ones, right?
No, I've only done middle school and up.
Okay. Anybody do any elementary teaching? I know, Teese, you haven't.
Just middle school. I subbed elementary.
Okay. Did you do?
I have done only for reading though. I have taught some elementary.
Okay, because I want to make sure that we have experience on all levels of the education system as far as pre-college. Okay, so we're just gonna dig right in because we only have an hour and we've already lost like 20 minutes. So I want to make sure that we try to get some good conversation in pertaining to this matter because, as you all know, they're not talking about this during the election. Is that something that you guys are concerned with? All these well-spoken teachers.
As far as what?
As far as, it not being an issue, a major issue. When we talk about politics, we talk about terrorism. We talk about Hillary being a liar and giving out her information online. And we talk about any other crazy comment that Donald Trump has done on a daily basis. But we have not talked about major issues that affect us on a daily.
I think it's important to always keep in mind that people like controversy. And right now, there's not much controversy in the educational world that people know about. So really, the only time you hear about public schools or schools in general is when there's some type of teacher strike. So now that the teachers are not striking and they're on vacation from striking, there's not much, much talk. But I think it is interesting to see what the politicians have, in mind for the education system. Because when you think about the fact that most of us work in low-income areas and the type of problems that we encounter every day, the fact that kids are getting shot and killed on the way to school, we can't send kids home because we're fearful that they're going to be shot and killed. That's a major issue. But it doesn't seem to overpower the issues that other people think are important. So yeah, it is kind of disturbing that that's not the main topic that people are talking about.
So basically what you're saying is there's just not enough controversy, not enough heated social discussion behind that topic.
When you think back to the time when you had the scandals in the CPS system and how much news and coverage was over that. Think about when the schools closed down in Chicago. Now that you have a lot more positive things going on, you're not really hearing about the fact that you have these teachers who are in these schools trying to make changes. No.
Right, that's just a question that I have, because like you said with the controversy, like today I was watching on Media Takeout a teacher who was roughing up a young man because he was being disrespected. So it's just like we see those type of videos all the time, but we never see I hear that the strike ended, but we don't really get the information of why it ended. Like, I mean, unless you actually are into that or like research it, if you're a teacher or know people who are teachers, we still don't know why the strike ended, if you had your needs met or anything like that.
So were your needs met? Because I think some of you guys are at CPS. You're not CPS anymore?
No.
I know you were in the suburbs, Amina.
Yeah, I am in the suburbs.
Are you and Amina in the same school?
Yes, we are.
Okay, so you're in Phoenix? That's where you guys are at?
Mm-hmm.
What's the name of the school? Y'all don't want to say. Okay.
That
is terrible. You know what's kind of dumb about you guys not saying that? Because I got you on film, so they gonna know that you work at the school. But that's okay. but I do know in neighborhoods, like I'll say it, in a neighborhood like Phoenix and Harvey, Chicago schools, you're in, where are you?
I work at Bridgescape in North Lawndale.
Okay.
West,
but you were before that, where were you?
In Auburn Gresham, 81st and May Perspective.
Right. So I remember it. Okay. So I got to catch up. Okay.
Little Calumet. Used to be Little Calumet.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So how do you think that's your neighborhood, your old neighborhood?
Well, I'm in Auburn Gresham. I'm between Inglewood and Auburn Gresham, like on Green, 75th and Green.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying that was your old neighborhood.
I just think that as teachers, we get used to being kind of ignored.
Yeah.
So I feel like teachers are unsung heroes on the day-to-day basis.
Most definitely.
So when we're not talked about, it's kind of
the norm.
Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? We do a lot, but our salaries don't really reflect everything we do in general.
So when you hear CPS talking about teachers are overpaid, what is underpaid? What is there's no CPS. The officials are saying you guys are overpaid. State officials are saying you're overpaid.
Well, it's different because the CPS, they have a different pay scale from what we have because they work in a public school system that's considered like CPS. Their pay scale is different from ours. I know I work at a charter school. Well, I work for a network that owns a charter network. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, when you think about salary and you think about what people endure on a daily basis, to me, there is no overpaying. Because you think about every day that you're a teacher, you really risk in your life. Because nowadays, kids are more bound to do things that are unpredictable. I had a teacher on Facebook, my old coworker, this girl was fighting him like a man, and he was trying to restrain her. So when you're met with those type of things every day, you go in every day knowing that it's not going to be, I'm just teaching people. Every day it's a struggle because you have to be someone's mother, someone's sister, someone's auntie, someone's father, someone's brother. So when you think about the stress that comes along with teaching, to me, there's no such thing as overpaying a teacher. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm not out on the court running and making baskets, but I can say I'm making some great strides in my community. Mm-hmm. I'm not being paid for that.
Mm-hmm. Right. You have to think about who's teaching the young man to shoot baskets. A teacher, a coach.
Most times,
I've always think the teachers should make an amazing amount of money, but
me too.
It just never
but
happens.
You know how it goes. The people that deserve the money don't get it. That's just how life is, and sadly, even with the way that we're treated post work, people that have retired and been teachers for 30 or 40 years now need to be on public assistance because they can't make bills, they can't meet the bills that they have. And that's just kind of the cycle of things. So that's why you gotta really love what you do, and no matter what you do, you gotta find a passion behind it because you may not always be rewarded monetarily as you expect.
Right.
I would like to hear from Shantae. We're going to move on a little bit. We want to talk about, this is a big conversation that Nycee and I had. Nycee being a single woman, but knowing the struggle of this is kind of awkward to me because it's such a big topic. You know what I mean? And if you're not a parent, you may not know about this, but everybody's discussing the Common Core curriculum. So Shantae, give us, for the audience members out there, we do not want to assume that that they're aware of what Common Core curriculum really entails. So can you give a brief summary of that?
Sure. The Common Core curriculum, the idea behind it is that no matter where you go in the state, or no matter where you go in the United States, that if you're in, let's just say, sixth grade, at a sixth grade level, everybody across the board should be learning the same thing, or they should know the same things. Whereas right now, it's absolutely not that way at all.
Okay, so let's talk about this. All right. Me and Nycee were talking about the math part of this. Okay. I saw some head shaking. I mean, it's a free country. Remember, you have a right to freedom of speech. You would not lose your job on my show, okay, based on ethics and or HIPAA, okay? So, okay. We were talking about the math thing, and we were trying to figure out, in essence, they're telling us 2 + 2 is not 4 anymore. And then you got to break stuff down. And what I mean by that is you have to simplify, go by the steps. So, like, I grew up differently learning. Nycee grew up differently. She has nieces and nephews and little cousins. She's helping out, too.
I've done after school teaching before,
right.
And it's just like, what is this math?
The thing about the math is that it's more conceptual. Like you said, when we were in school, we learned how to do a certain thing. We learned when you subtract from 0, you cross out the first 0, you put the 1 over the next 0. Mm-hmm. But that really doesn't tell you anything about what subtraction means. Okay. Why do you subtract? In what situations should you subtract? So Common Core is really about, as far as this math goes, it's really about understanding conceptually, not an algorithm, not a trick, but the math behind, or the reasoning behind the math. So there are multiple ways to get to, in any problem, there's multiple ways, alternatives and roads to get to one specific answer. And Common Core really is trying to embrace all these different avenues, whereas it's not so linear to say, no, if you don't do it this way, then it's not right.
But people are doing that now. Tease, I was just talking to a coworker that did some work with her daughter, I believe, and the daughter took the homework to school, back to school, and when she got it to the teacher looked at it and marked all the answers wrong because the steps weren't being taken as taught.
I guess in that instance, I can't really speak on, but I know overall, and then it does depend on the curriculum in itself. So the way that the curriculum presents their strategies, it's going to be different for each textbook, each school, and things like that. But overall, and I can speak for the curriculum that we use, that it's more so about learning conceptually. That's really what it is. It's not so much, no, you didn't carry the 0. No, you didn't put the 1 on top of this number. It's really about, can you explain what you did? Does it make sense? Can you articulate why you did it? Because Common Core is supposed to be making the students ready for jobs and college after high school. So they want them to be thinkers. So I can't speak on why that particular teacher marked it in that way, but I do know from my own personal experience that it's about, can you explain it? Can you articulate it? And things like that.
Okay.
Just to piggyback off of what she said, I think it's unfortunate that the teacher actually marked those things wrong, because essentially they may have been correct. It's not really about, the buzzword in education is discovery learning. So it's not really about, the important thing is that you got the answer and that you can explain how you got the answer. Okay. So to me, it shouldn't matter what method you use to get it, as long as you're able to say to me, hey, I didn't look this up on the internet. I got it this way because this is the way my brain thinks.
Okay.
And everybody's brain thinks different. Mm-hmm. And that's what I think sometimes people forget in education, is that everybody learns differently. So
I will, and to keep going off of it, is that it's a shift. So you have teachers that have been in the game for a very long time. And so they're still used to teaching in that way that you and I were taught.
Okay.
Whereas Common Core is a shift in saying, no, can they explain it? Do they know why they did it? Do they have alternatives methods? So you also have teachers who are trying to adjust with this new learning standard or with these new learning standards. So that you got to take that into account too, that you have those teachers that are trying to get over that hump too.
So how for or against? I mean, don't say how for, but don't answer that. I'm trying to censor my questions. But are you for or against it? Are you for or against the as a teacher, and then as a parent, if you have children, are you for or against? Or if you have nieces and nephews or cousins, are you for it as far as their future goes?
I think the Common Core looks different in every curriculum, in every grade level, every subject matter. Common Core, what it would look like in math may not look the same in English. Me, I'm all for how, whatever it takes to help the kids learn, because when you think about being an educator, it's about teaching kids how to think for themselves. Mm-hmm. So whatever we can do to help kids become more independent thinkers and not rely on teachers to spew out answers and become mimes and just regurgitating what everybody's saying, then that's the cause I'm for. So if it takes Common Core for us to establish a level where people are allowed to think intellectually and outside the box and be creative with their ideas, then I'm for it.
See, that's kind of what I was leaning towards, because with the Common Core, is that going to be for, like, you say it's statewide or like nationwide, but is that going to be for, like, the private schools, or because they all learn differently or they have a different curriculum? Because I think just how it is with public, like, I don't think that the kids, or you all can correct me with this, but do a lot of the kids get the same education? Or, like, if the Common Core is, if it takes place, like, how are they going to get the same education as, like, if they would at a private school who has more resources and things like that? So is that just for our students, with, this color, or is it supposed to be for every student of the United States?
The idea is that it's supposed to level the playing field. Mm-hmm. But the problem, and the concept of Common Core, I think, is great. However, I don't think that the people that put it in place thought it all the way through.
Right.
Because there's a whole lot of kinks and a whole lot of things. For example, you just mentioned the difference in resources. Uh-huh. That's a problem that has to be solved before you can attempt to level the playing field.
Right.
If you don't solve that problem, we're always going to be a step behind.
Exactly.
So that has to be dealt with first. So the concept is not bad, but like everything else, a lot of times when politicians put these things in place, they don't talk to the people who are on the battlefield every day.
Right.
So you're putting these things in place, but you don't understand you understand what's supposed to happen in the classroom, but you don't understand the reality of what actually happens on a day-to-day basis. Mm-hmm. So it's real difficult it's easy to put something in place and think about how it's supposed to work. But the reality of it is it doesn't usually work out that way.
I would like to see a bridge in the gap between the child and the parent. When we were kids there, I can remember my parents say, I don't remember how to do that. That's different from I don't know. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Where parents almost have to be tutored themselves in order to explain. So I'm asking this personally because I have to deal with this now that my son is 7 years old and he started Common Core in kindergarten. So are there resources for parents to learn how to explain Common Core curriculum at home with their children?
I don't think they would be at home explaining a certain curriculum. It would be, on a case-by-case basis. But the only thing about any type of curriculum is that it would take parent involvement. So if, it would take you reaching out to a teacher, because for the most part, a lot of schools don't offer what we should, but people don't have the resources because people are underpaid. These schools are underpaid, should offer classes for parents, because you have to think now, kids are not exposed to those things we were exposed to. Mm-hmm. So kids don't know how to write cursive. Right. As an English teacher, that's offensive. You can't write your name in cursive, you can't sign. So you think about these things that, in essence, it sounds good to say, man, I want to learn how to do that. But then when you think about where are the resources going to come from? Because, you can say a teacher will volunteer to stay at the school and go over stuff with parents. But when you think about how overworked teachers are in general, then you would say, okay, well, how do we how do we really bridge that gap? Besides parents becoming more involved and talking to the
'cause half
teacher.
the time they don't even come to the meeting.
Yeah, you got to make them come to the
That's
meeting.
actually what I was going to say.
My suggestion is, as a parent, if you're a parent and you're really interested in trying to figure out how to help your kid, take a day off of work and come sit in your kid's class.
Or a lot of times we offer things after school, but honestly, parents will come to pick up a cell phone that was taken from a child before they will come to sit and learn how to help your child be a better student.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times, unfortunately, we don't see the parents until it's an issue either with behavior or grades. And at that point, I feel like it's kind of too late. I feel like you should be directly involved from the beginning.
Right.
And I realize it's difficult, especially when you're dealing with a lot of single parent homes or when you're dealing with parents who have to work to make a living. I realize it's difficult, but I also know that people make sacrifices for
what they
for
want.
the children.
That are
your children.
important to them. Yeah.
Speaking of sacrifice, good segue. Good job, Shantae. You just did that for me. You just did that for me. Okay, so I was reading this article pertaining to core curriculum. The article comes from cnsnews.com. There is a gentleman by the name of Peter Wood, who is the president of the National Association of Scholars, who is against the thought of core curriculum being introduced to our children in the United States. And I pulled a couple of lines, and I'm going to start here. But the math standards are set way low. This is pertaining to core curriculum. But the math standards are set way below all of the Asian nations. And the U.S. language arts standards are not matched to international standards, Wood pointed out. He quotes again, the section on math is written by mathematics who look upon changes as a comprehensive lowering of standards so that students at the end of high school know a lot less than they used to and are not prepared for college level math. Another point that was brought up in this article was that, this is not quoted, but this is my paraphrasing. English is being taught from a non-creative standpoint, yet a directly informative perspective. So everything is on a need-to-know basis, which relinquishes the idea of creativity. So I'm bringing this up to say, just like the math standards have been lowered, and Baptiste, this is probably something that you can kind of elaborate on since English is your specialty. Has core curriculum put fear in the hearts of a creative mind?
I would say, because I work at a charter school, I would say sort of kind of the curriculum that we use at the school I worked at, everything was geared towards the ACT. So the way we taught our classes, the way we created and presented our passages were all geared towards ACT style test. So taking away the idea of that creative process where you are answering questions with your own thoughts. Everything is multiple choice, so you can only choose 1 of 4 answers. So it's a 50-50 chance you may or may not get things wrong. But in general, I think creativity, regardless of Common Core or any other curriculum that's being implemented, can always be energized into a classroom. It's just a matter of how you present the information. You can make a lesson creative. Any lesson can be creative. It's just about that teacher being willing to step outside the box, because, sometimes I know in my school, at my old school, charter school, everything is just a box, and then you have to be willing to, step out that box and still be able to stick to what they want you to teach, but teach it in a creative manner, which brings forth that creative energy in that student. So it's really, in essence, it's about the teacher. Sometimes it's about you being, saying like, kids are not going to learn this like this. No one wants to read, these old stories. What can we do to kind of implement that same idea in modern day times? So sometimes it has to be a teacher being creative. It has to go beyond just a curriculum. A curriculum is a curriculum. How you implement the curriculum is different.
Right.
So.
And we saw that as kids. Baptiste and I grew up together in the same school system. And we had some teachers that were highly creative, that we could still memorize like raps that we learned.
Yeah, oh my goodness.
And break out that preposition song.
Right.
My kids like, how that song go again, Miss Kathy, keep singing?
And we used to do it, classroom wars. Like the classroom would hear us next door and they'd start the next list.
See who was louder. Yeah.
We had court in class, in our history class. We had a teacher that gave us, this is probably bad, this is probably why I'm 100
Don't
pounds
do him
overweight.
like that.
But we probably gave
Don't
he
do
gave
him
us
like that.
gummy worms. Shout out to Mr. Campier. We just went to his
Mr.
house.
Campier.
We just went to his house this summer.
We
We're
did.
still in contact with him. But he, they found ways to be creative where it's things that still stick in my head to this day that I use on a daily because of some creative notion that was implemented in my classroom.
I think that's awesome. Oh, I'm sorry. What was?
I was just going to say, I have to agree. Well, what I'll say is, I do believe that some of the creativity is being silenced only because teachers are afraid to take a risk. Like, we have a lot on our heads now. Basically, they're tying the test scores to your evaluation. So
Okay.
your
Wow.
job is kind of at risk. So it's kind of hard to step outside the box. But me, I'll take the risk. And I'm confident that with me taking the risk and being creative and relating it to things that they can relate to in their everyday lives, they're still going to get the information.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But it is a risk these days.
And that kind of brings me, I'm sorry, that kind of brings me to my question, like just backing up, because my science teacher, and I still remember her to this day, she was my music teacher as well. So I don't know how they flipped that, but I just like how you said, like, because when I got to high school, it was a soul that she taught us about science that made me like pass all of my biology tests, So like with teachers and about being creative, why is it a constraint, or how free can the teacher be to being creative but still trying to stick to the curriculum? Like, does it seem like it can be room for that? Like, because it seems like the curriculum is just so A and B and and C, but it's just like no room to embellish. That's why they always say with children, like with schools that have arts and things like that, these are children who perform better. But it's just like now it just seems like they're just taking everything away, and it's just like, how much room does it leave for a teacher to be creative?
I think it also goes into the financial part of it, because a lot of times teachers go into their own pockets to buy things and incentives for their classrooms that they feel the kids will enjoy, because everything doesn't fit into a budget. Districts can't always pay for gummy worms or and those math manipulatives, the ones that your math teachers would scream and holler at you about because you lost a block or you broke a chip. Those things cost hundreds of dollars per kit.
They do.
They cost hundreds of dollars. And so sometimes the teachers, like Baptiste is saying, the kids aren't going to learn like that. But then the alternative is, so am I spending my own money all the time to get my test scores to be where they need to be so that the kids stay engaged and things like that? So that's definitely one constraint, is that financial piece.
But even when you think about it in general, it's really a rush to meet a deadline. And that's why a lot of people they steer away from the creativity, because their fear is that they'll get into that creative process, which will take more time.
Okay.
Because you have to believe, you have to realize too, even when we were in school, there are standardized tests. We're teaching for ACT. I taught juniors.
Right.
So you have to understand that sometimes, as creative as a teacher wants to be, there's a timeline.
Right.
And I know when I first started teaching at this charter school I worked at, I would be like, okay, I know he didn't get that concept, but I got to move on. I was so stuck on trying to get to a point where they could have this information for this test, but like in all naturality, I was doing them a disservice. But I didn't want to hear my supervisor talk about, well, you guys didn't cover strategy 303.5 to your D3. I didn't want to hear that. And I'm being serious. And so I had to get to a point where I was like, you know what, TOD 602 can wait till next week.
I don't even know
We're
what
gonna
the codes
focus
mean, but they
on,
sound tough.
we're gonna focus on WTH 401 this week, But that means that I'm gonna take that risk.
Right.
We may not ever reach TOD 603, but I'm gonna reach you on when you set your lessons up. Though it's up to you. If you have 25 questions about one thing, I'm gonna focus on that. And I'm not to get to the other 20 things on there.
Right.
So it becomes a process where people are not, that it's not that you don't want to be creative. Sometimes it's that time constraint that doesn't allow you to be as creative as you want to be.
That's a good point.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm gonna start nagging a little bit, a little bit, because we have great performers and singers and rappers, but we have educators on our show, and I know all of y'all got kids. Mercedes, Davy, Jeter, Hey, Mr. Cronkite. That's one of our old teachers.
Yeah.
Hey, Mr.
Hey,
Cronkite. Mr. Cronkite. That's, oh my God, I love Mr. Cronkite. Sorry. Ashley Tyler. Paige Rooney doesn't have any. He should. Kiki doesn't need. Shout out to Kiki and Paige. Those
Kiki.
are
All
the
right,
friends.
Kiki.
That's part of the posse. But anyway.
Hey, y'all.
Hey. So, but my point was that I know you guys, you watch us and you follow us, and we appreciate you following. But I know some of you are parents, some of you are potential parents, and have nieces and nephews, or you somebody's godmother, godfather, and this is the time to ask the questions while we have educators on the panel. So you have a few more minutes left. Call in 708-223-8953. Again, that's 708-223-8953. If you have any questions about what you're doing with your child, if you're doing it wrong, should you beat them before they go to school, or should you beat them afterwards? I'm just joking. I'm just joking. Call in
Afterwards.
Call in. Call in 708-223-8953 to get your questions answered and your opinions heard. It's important that we be active in gaining as much knowledge about our children's future as possible. Education is the first thing that we're taught to get. So call in 708-223-8953. We're going to take a quick break and play some music and break up some of this deep conversation on the Frankie and Nycee radio show on IntellectualRadio.com, iHeartRadio. We'll be right back.
I saw it once when I was 17. Those kids were hanging out and making a scene. They were running around, bare-chested, sun in their eyes. They're living and loving out loud. I saw it once when I was 22. Those kids were in the streets with nothing to lose. They were singing and shouting, down with the king. The future is really alive. Those kids are gonna find it out tonight. Fistful of dreams, they're gonna set the world on fire. Those kids are gonna make you feel alright. But it's easy to run and it's easy to hide, but they find it when you're feeling uptight. Yeah. I saw it once when I was 24. Those kids were picking fights and running the show. They all were seeing the world with all their crazy eyes. They ain't gonna die till the story's just right. I saw it once when I was 28. They fell in love again and blamed it on fate. Went from sunrise to moonrise with the light on their lips. They were living and loving out loud. Those kids are gonna find it out tonight. Fistful of dreams, they're gonna set the world on fire. Those kids are gonna make you feel alright. 'Cause it's easy to run and it's easy to hide, but then find it when you're feeling uptight. They keep running and running, they're running and running around. They keep running and running and running and running around. I saw it once when I was by your side. No talk of reason, you said come for a ride. 'Cause now that the day's done, the money's all gone. We got just enough time to stand up and fly. Running and running and running and running around. Yeah, they keep running and hustling and running and hustling around. Yeah, they keep running and running and running and running around. tonight they sing it loud. Those kids are running around, they busting out, they shouting out. Those kids are hanging out, they putting out, they sing it out. Running and running, they're running and running around. They keep running and running, they're running and running around.
And we're back on the Frankie and Nycee radio show on IntellectualRadio.com. iHeartRadio, ladies and gentlemen, we are live on Facebook. If you would like to watch the show, which we would prefer that you do, go to IntellectualRadio.com
yes.
and click the live button, and you'll be live and direct on our show, the Frankie and Nycee radio show. So we're coming back to our panel of educated, strong black women.
Strong black women.
That ain't said ain't yet. I said ain't more than y'all did. And y'all. And That is why I'm the singer. You see? Betty's Gant, Amina Maxwell, Shantae Brown, thank you again for joining us on the Frankie and Nycee radio show.
No problem.
So Nycee, you had a good old question, Nycee. Go on.
Okay.
Question real quick.
All right, so I'm just gonna do a couple of shout outs before I get to the question. So the first song we played today was by our late friend Janelle Smith. It was called Take a Stand, which is kind of about close to what we're talking about with just the education and the whole policing thing that's happening within our communities. And the second song that we just played before after we went on break was by Cody Genova, called Those Kids. And
Those kids.
So we just want to give a couple of shout outs to those people, Chicago artists. Thank you so much for lending your music. So my question is, because a lot of people may not know this or may seem clueless about it and not really sure, but so what is the difference between a public school and then you have the charter school? I usually see on TV that I would say our mayor, Rahm Emanuel, he's pushing more for charter schools. At least that's what what I'm getting from it. So I just want to know why is there such a big difference between these two schools and all these other schools that are closing down to become charter schools? What is that about?
Well, the bottom line is the almighty dollar. That's what it's about.
Almighty dollar. Sorry.
Charter schools are more business based, and they're run by companies. They're actually run by companies. So a lot of things that public schools, a lot of laws and things that public schools are bound to, they are not necessarily. If Betsy's chime in on this, you don't have to necessarily. Everybody does not have to be certified in a charter school, right?
That's correct.
Okay, so it's really about the dollar. It's about they can do things that they can't necessarily do in public schools. So that's the biggest difference.
No union neither.
So would
right?
that be
No
better
union.
for the students, do you believe?
I mean,
or?
I don't think that either way it goes, it's about the teachers. It's not about everybody has their own agenda, regardless of it being a charter school or public school. There's an agenda behind everything. Mm-hmm. So, I've worked for charter schools the whole time I've been teaching, and I won't say that they don't have good people there, regardless of them being certified. Because I know you mentioned that sometimes people aren't certified, but the beauty of it is the best teacher might be someone who learned life lessons and they were not educated in an institution.
Gotcha.
So I have coworkers who lost their jobs because policies changed and they weren't certified.
Oh, wow.
But they were great teachers.
Yeah.
So charter schools are, and they will hire people who do not have a certification, but they have to have a degree.
Yeah.
You can't have a high school diploma and work at a charter school. So but they're not governed by the same laws. The same rules don't apply.
Is it stock based? Do you invest in stock?
We've never been asked to invest in stock at any of the charter schools.
But do they have stocks though? Are they stock based?
I'm not sure. I can't even say that.
Sure.
Okay.
But
I'm sorry.
I know even thinking about some of the public schools are funded. The funds that they receive may come from a community.
Okay.
Some
taxes.
schools that the school is totally run off the taxes that are received from the community. So they're governed a little bit different too, because now they have a greater stipulation on who can and cannot attend that school. You have to live in the boundary of that neighborhood in order to attend that school. When you think about places like Chicago, it's a free range.
Yeah.
In Chicago, you can live in Oka-Koka, wherever. You can live anywhere and go to the school anywhere. They're not bound by districts like a suburban area.
Right.
Yeah.
And you wonder, why is it that Chicago CPS, they don't have boundaries for who can go to their school, but In the suburbs, there are clear boundaries. If you live on the left side or the west side of 176th Street, you're not going to TF South.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, so it's a good question as to why does it exist like that? Why is that there's a free range in the city of Chicago filled with African Americans?
Right.
And then you have a suburban school that's guided by boundaries that's not really filled with us.
Right.
But would it be numbers? Like they want to make sure that a certain number of students are going to the school? Would that be it? Why?
Well, schools are
because within
paid.
the district, you know?
Schools are paid by the number of
Uh-huh.
kids they have by a certain deadline.
Which is why they push for people to go to school the
So-
first day,
so you
the
think
first
about-
day and week of school.
Yeah, you think about a charter school. Even most schools I know, they'll keep kids on a roster that's never shown up until a certain date
So
because
they
they're
can
going to
get
get
the
paid for
funds.
those
That
kids.
funding,
They're going to get
right.
funding for those kids. It doesn't make it right or wrong because a kid probably isn't anywhere. You may still do your due diligence and call for that kid, but they're not attending the school. So the numbers, it's a number game. No matter what school it is, what district it is, private, public, charter, it's a number game.
Right.
Because the more kids you have in your school, the more funding you're going to get.
Absolutely.
But the politicians are building these charter schools because they got bigger investments in it other than the
Right.
kids.
Yes, and let me say, I don't have a problem with teachers not being certified. You're right. There are some great teachers who are not necessarily certified, and school does not necessarily prepare you to be in the
A good teacher,
classroom.
yeah.
And my background is not in education. I just recently got an education degree, although I've been teaching for 9 years. I just recently got a degree in education because I went through an alternative program.
Okay.
But what I do want to say is, as far as suburban districts, it's because of the tax base. The reason why they have the boundaries in the suburban district versus Chicago public schools, the suburban district, so let's just say Harvey, Riverdale, and Dalton.
Right.
You only get the funds from Harvey's tax dollars.
Right.
So that's why they have the boundaries in place, because you don't want to, but the idea is a kid from Harvey shouldn't be able to go to a Midlothian district where
Right.
their parents don't pay taxes there.
Oh, yeah.
Which is why that's the one thing that I do like about Chicago public schools is that you can go anywhere,
Right.
because all the tax dollars are in one pool. So
we're gonna take a little break from intelligentsia. We're gonna go and we're gonna have a little fun. Okay, so at the end of every show, our first guest, especially, we do this game called Frankie's Top 5. Okay, just like the movie Top 5, you know, your top 5 greatest rappers, you know. Okay, so I customized a few questions for you guys based on your profession.
I'm nervous.
Okay. I mean,
They should be nervous. I don't know why they nervous. They're not crazy. They've been knowing me forever. I don't know. Shantae just the first one. Be very, very afraid. Okay.
Top 5 is fun. It helps you think on your toes.
You a little bit on your
we
toes.
like to hear it. Frankie and Nycee radio show.
So, top 5 favorite anticipations on Friday afternoon.
You said
Say that
Shantae's
again.
first?
Top 5
oh, I'm first.
favorite, whatever. Y'all shout it
You all
off the
can
top of
answer
your
this
head.
together because
Yeah.
you know it's
Payday.
probably about the same top 5.
What she say?
Payday.
Payday.
There you go.
Get in my car.
Relaxation.
The weekend.
One more.
Clocking out.
They are so focused. I was hoping one of y'all fools would say Tilly's.
Tilly's usually
Y'all, you don't understand, Nycee. I get a
Tilly's
text.
used to
We
be
have a
our
group text.
our Friday anticipation. We
And
haven't been so long.
what y'all doing tonight? Tilly's? I'm like, y'all help us. I'm on the stage singing somewhere.
It would be during the summer
Tilly's have
though.
great coupons.
Yeah. If you ever get some time.
Coupons.
Top favorite books of all time.
Malcolm X, autobiography of Malcolm X.
A piece of cake.
Oh, it's on me, the
Yeah.
teacher, the English teacher who has no favorite book in mind.
You know
Okay.
what?
The Color Purple.
The coldest winter ever.
Thought you would have said cold as winter. That was
I know.
One more. I need one more.
Oh,
Let's get a few
I don't
more in
know.
there. You know,
this
top
is
5.
getting
They ain't
hard. We're
thinking.
getting
Look at
old.
them.
We're
They
getting
ain't
old.
thinking nothing. All these
Oh.
educators look
What
books
about the
around
literature books?
Maintenance
like,
Man.
like Little Women
Death of a
or
salesman.
Roll of Thunder. Hear my roar.
Oh, you
I
know
like
what?
that. I do like that.
Of Angels and Beatles.
Okay. Top 5 most influential musical educators, meaning that they're musicians, but they have been educating people in their craft.
Tupac.
That's
I don't
a good one,
understand the
Frankie.
question.
Top 5 musically
Lauryn Hill.
Oh,
Common.
yeah.
common.
Erica
Bob
Badu. We like Erica, right?
Erica Badu.
Nina
Absolutely.
Simone.
That's my girl.
Lauren Hill.
Gil Scott Heron.
Stevie Wonder.
Okay.
Yeah.
Top 5 favorite grading snacks. When you grade your papers.
Flaming Hots and Honey
Oh my
Buns.
gosh, she's in a hood school. Oh my gosh.
Absolutely. Gummy bears.
Now later.
Peanut M&Ms.
Okay.
Oh, that's a good one.
Reese's.
There you
Top
go.
5 favorite things to do on a summer break.
Drink wine.
Sleep.
Oh,
Okay.
2
Wait,
said
wait,
sleep,
wait.
1 said drink. So do we drink first, then sleep?
In that order.
In that order. In that order.
She said drink wine.
drink wine and sleep. Okay.
3 more.
Oh,
Relax.
Eat.
travel.
Listen to, go to concerts. What the-
Go to
I'm with them
concerts.
all the time. They ain't picked up
Sorry.
nothing. Go to Tilly's.
Go to
Y'all ain't
Tilly's.
picked up nothing that we
Go
normally
to concerts.
do. Okay, so ladies,
My
thank you
thing
That's what
is
they like to
travel.
do in their spare time.
Travel.
travel. She like to travel. So Shantae, nice
Yes.
to meet you. And
Thank
thank you
you.
for coming.
Thank you for
Amina,
having
thank you
me.
for coming.
No
Betsy,
problem.
thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
It's always a pleasure as usual.
Most
Next week
definitely.
we
I
get
really
back to-
enjoyed this
This
conversation
is a
with all
good
you ladies.
conversation. I felt educated, like
Thanks,
I went to school.
Okay.
Thank you so much for tuning into the IntellectualRadio.com show, the Frankie and Nycee Radio Show. We'll be back next week for our great artists to come. I holla.
Thank you.
I might not always agree with everything that I understand, but I understand. Somebody the other day asked me about how I feel about home, the state of home. Well, I say it like this. Ever been coming home after a long day of work and you see that gas station or that corner store, you stop there and get your last few things before you go in for the night. You feel safe before you actually reach your home. So now imagine coming home and that store.